this week we're talking about really digging into research. Today I really want to focus on using Proquest because I know that you're probably very good already at using Google to find your sources, and that is not a problem. But I want to show you one of the most helpful databases that you have access to as a community college student here. And that is Proquest. So where do you find Proquest? I linked you to it in week 2. So what you want to do is once you're in here, and that's what you see on your screen, once you're in here, you can click on Proquest Academic Research Database, and this is going to take you to one of the pages from the library. And I decided to make this as our starting point because it was the best way, I think, to give you access without having to go through too many hurdles. So all you have to do is scroll down just a little bit and find the source that says Proquest Central opens in a new window. Now what you've probably just noticed is that you saw like a blue square flash on the screen, and then I was instantaneously brought to this teal page that says Proquest Central. That is because I am currently on Mitchell's Wi-Fi, so it knows that I have access to Mitchell's database. But if you're doing this from home, you might be prompted to log in just to show that you are allowed to access this, because not everyone in the world can have access to Proquest. You get access because you're a student. So it's going to ask you to log in, and if it might. And if it does, you would just log in the same way that you would log into any school computer, or if you've never logged into a school computer, it should be the part of your email before the @ sign. So like your name information, and if you have any numbers. I don't really know what your emails look like actually. And then your password that you would use to log in to your email. If you have any trouble logging in and accessing Proquest, please let me know and I can figure out who to get you to contact. With that being said, it's really important that before your annotated bibliography is due, you try to log in. So if you're having issues, we can get those figured out before any deadlines. Okay, so this is what you're going to see when you get to your page, and there's so many things that I could tell you about how to use an academic database, and there's a lot of things that I'm not going to cover because I'm just going to go over the basics. So if you want to know more about that, I will add a link to our FYI section that goes into even more detail that I'm going to talk about here, because I don't think that there's really a reading in our textbook about this content. Okay, the way that searching in an academic database works is very different from searching in Google. So in Google, I could ask a question and I could get some responses that might help me answer my question. However, in Proquest and other academic search databases, you have to search for words that you think will be found in the article that you want to read. So instead of asking a question like, what do teachers do for a living, or what are the job duties of teachers, and then getting hits back that might answer my question, I would want to make sure I searched certain phrases that I think would be found in the article that I might want to find. So you have to do a little bit of, I guess, hypothesizing and figuring out what would be the best terms. One of the things I have learned through researching as a student and as an instructor is that it takes some trial and error. So if the first time you type in your search terms and you don't get what you want, change your search terms. Not getting what you're looking for does not mean it doesn't exist. So do not give up too quickly, okay? But if you're struggling, you know what to do. You can always send me an email. Whenever you're looking for different articles, you always want to make sure that you select this box that says full text. What that's telling you is you are looking only for sources that you could read the whole thing. Sometimes in these databases, they'll give you access to an abstract or half of an article, but not the whole thing. And that's really not going to be helpful for you because I want you to have access to the whole thing that you're reading. So you want to click full text. Some of these, so just a heads up, before you read a source or say, I'll read this later, some of these articles can be very long. Some scholarly articles are upwards of 20 to 30 pages, but sometimes they're not that long. Sometimes they're a page or 2 pages. So certainly I'm encouraging you to, if you find something that looks promising and you say, I'm going to read this later, just see how many pages there are before you wait until the last minute, because you might not have time to read 20 to 30 pages if you only have half an hour to do your assignment. Okay. The other box that you could check here is peer reviewed, and that just depends on the type of source you're looking for. So if you're looking for a scholarly article that has been reviewed by other experts within the field, then you want to select peer reviewed. And in some cases, I will require that you find a scholarly article, and you want to make sure that box is selected. I find for myself that the majority of research that is the most credible are peer-reviewed scholarly articles, so I always check this box. I don't want to read anything just personally that's not been peer reviewed. I like the idea here. And you can click on this little I for more information. Okay, so I'm going to enter some search terms, and I've gone through this before a few times just to kind of see what's going to work and what's not going to work. So I want to say, here's what I'm looking for. I want to find an article that talks about Harry Potter and talks about like being a librarian, because we see a lot of references to the librarian in Harry Potter, and even though we don't really see it too much in the movies, I mean we see it in the books, so I'm just I want to find that out. Okay, so I'm going to search how I would search in Google. Maybe something like, are there librarians in Harry Potter? And I'm going to ask that question. So what this is doing is looking for all of these keywords, librarians, Harry Potter, and you're going to notice that I've gotten 780 results, which is pretty narrow. Like, even though that sounds like a lot of results, sometimes if you search something way too broad, you're going to get millions of results. So if you are finding that you're getting anywhere more than a couple thousand results, you might want to go ahead and narrow your search terms. Now, I typed in this question because I wanted to see what responses or what types of sources would populate when I asked a question. Even though I don't think that this is the best way to use Proquest, it's not going to kick you back and say, oh, you can't do it this way. So here I have found, and I am looking, this is telling me it is a scholarly article because it has this little graduation cap, which always says scholarly article. So this says, let it be, we are in trouble. And here you can see an excerpt from the text, and it's highlighting the words that I searched that are found within the text. So I might decide to click on it because I see Harry Potter and I see librarian. But this seems to be talking about an encounter from a librarian or teacher librarian talking about the Harry Potter books. So I'd have to read more to decide whether or not this is going to be helpful for me. Maybe I might say, I'll check this out, or I'll read it later. I'm looking at the full thing. It's clearly not very long. It's only just over 1,000 words, so I could read that later, not a problem. What I want to talk to you about really quickly too is what you can do once you find a source that you think might be helpful for your annotated bibliography. You can download it as a PDF if you don't want to have to worry about finding it again, this is a good way to just kind of save that content on your computer. You can email it to yourself. You can save it in a different way if you don't want to download it as a PDF. Saving it is going to save it to like your account within Proquest, so you'll have to log back in here to find all of your saved articles. You can print it out if your computer that you're on now has access to a printer, but I think one of the things that I like the most about using Proquest, and the things that I can convince my students, hey, use Proquest because it has this great function, is the cite function. So I just clicked on cite, and here's what pops up. I see the citation style, and always automatically when you click cite, the citation style will be in whatever it was the last time you wanted to cite something. So here it's in APA 6th edition. Well, obviously for this unit, you know we are in MLA. So you have to scroll down and you have to go to MLA. Now you're going to see these different editions. We are in the most recent MLA edition, so that's the 8th edition, and you want to select that. But you'll notice that the citation did not change yet. You have to manually click the button that says change, and then it will reload and you will see the new citation. A lot of students forget to click change. They think it will just happen automatically once they select the citation, and then they'll copy and paste a citation in a different format and they won't get credit for that, or they'll get points taken off. So now, and I'm going to click change one more time just to confirm. Now I've got the right citation, and I can just copy paste this into my document, update the font and size, and if it's the wrong color or something like that, I can fix all of that. But I don't have to manually cite anything. Of course, I would encourage you, anytime you're using a citation generator, even a very respected one like you see in Proquest, to double check your work against your reference guide. But for the most part, if I'm doing a quick skim through this, it's correct. So you're likely to have success using the cite function of Proquest. Not all of the time, however. Okay, so I think that that's one of the things I really wanted to tell you about. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, no, I hate this source, I don't even want to read it, it's not useful, 10 being, this is the best source I could find for my research, this is like a 5. I think that there are better ways to search for information, so I'm going to go back and I am going to use instead of using a question, I'm going to use what are called Boolean phrases. So again, these are the words, the keywords that I'm looking for in the article. I am going to type in Harry Potter, and I'm going to surround that phrase in quotation marks because that's going to tell my search engine to only find articles where those two words are next to each other, as opposed to if it has Harry somewhere in there and if it has Potter in there somewhere, then I'm fine with that. Here, using quotation marks, it says this is a phrase. Only find articles that have these two words next to each other. And then I'm also going to use my Boolean operator and, which is going to tell my computer, hey, I only want to find articles that has the phrase Harry Potter and the word movie in it. So I might try that out and see what comes up. I clicked enter, so I'm waiting for new results to load. There might be lots of results here because this is very general. Oh, there's not as many as I thought. So there's 896 results. And it looks like this is just a list of the movies. This article says Harry Potter and Witch Hunters, a social context for the attacks on Harry Potter. Not profession related, probably not something that I could use. The magic of leadership. Maybe this would be helpful if I was interested in looking at a profession that was like a leader role, maybe a CEO or something, but I don't know if I could really apply it to what I'm looking for in terms of librarian. Bewitched, bothered, and bored sounds interesting, but I don't think it's helpful for me. Demand for wildlife, Harry Potter lexicon, mediocre manager. This might be interesting, but again, I'm looking for a librarian, not a manager. So on the first page, I'm really not certain that I'm finding anything related to what I want to talk about. So I think I would like to add one more operator, and that would be again and, which means I'm searching for an article that has the phrase Harry Potter and movie, because I'm not talking about the books, I want to talk about the movie, and I'm going to say profession, see what happens, because I want to limit myself. I don't want to go all the way to librarian just yet, but I want to know if there's any scholarly articles out there that talk about Harry Potter the movie and a profession. Let's see here. So here I find, and this is what I found before, identifying the prevailing images in library and information science profession. Is the landscape changing? That sounds promising, and I see Harry Potter is listed at least 3 times in this article. So I'm going to go down to the part that I found the most helpful. The whole article is not about Harry Potter, and that is okay. Part of the article, mostly the majority of the article, is about being a librarian and the profession of librarian, perception of a librarian, but what's most interesting is now it's talking about films, and it's giving me information here that says someone, Bennett, in 2008, focused on the Harry Potter series and examined the stereotypes regarding librarians' image. That's really interesting to me. So what I would do with my annotated bibliography with this source is I would go ahead and read through it, because 2 reasons. It talks about Harry Potter, but it also talks even more about just the profession of a librarian, and I think this content could be helpful for me. And that's the type of thing I would say in my evaluation section in my annotated bib. It's got content on this, it talks about Harry Potter, so this might apply in that way. But then what I would also do is see if I could find this Bennett 2008 reference. So this is this author's in-text citation. I am going to go down and see if they provided me with a references page. Looks like this is an APA format. Here we go, references. So Bennett, C.J. Bennett, Librarians and Harry Potter, an introduction of the personality assessment instrument from QLA Quarterly. So now I would try and do some research and see if I could find that source. First, I would see if it's in Proquest. If not, then maybe I would just do a blanket Google search for it within Google, or maybe even on Google Scholar. So this is another way that Proquest and finding sources in Proquest can be helpful to you, and even why in-text citations and referencing within a work is so important, because it can inspire you to go read something else. So not only would I cite this article on my annotated bibliography, I would also probably try to find this article, and if I could, I would cite that on my annotated bibliography as well, and hopefully be able to use it in my final paper. Okay, if you are, so I want to just kind of go through and talk about some of the other Boolean operators that you could use if you wanted to. Let's say you wanted to search this, but you were also finding that there were a lot of sources talking about the book. You could say not book and do another search. So now what you're telling your computer is that you want the article to have Harry Potter and movie and profession all in it, but you don't want the article to have the word book anywhere in it. So if you notice you're getting a lot of sources that are applied in one area, but you're not looking for that area, you want to look somewhere else, you can tell the computer, ignore results with these words in them. You could also say, this gets confusing, like what order do you put it in, or book. So let's say you don't care. You want to analyze the movie or the book. It really doesn't matter. You can use that source regardless of whether it's talking about the movie or it's talking about the book. You can search and movie or book and profession. So now what you're telling the computer is you want it to have Harry Potter, you want it to have profession, and it's okay if it has either or movie or book. Okay, so those are the most common Boolean operators, and is the one that I think is the most helpful for you. Not can be helpful, or sometimes is helpful. When you find a source, I would use the cite function. I encourage you to always select full text and often select peer reviewed. Let's say I unselected peer reviewed, now I have almost 500,000 results, and I'm looking at things like newspaper articles or web articles that also are talking about the items from my search term. There are other ways in Proquest to limit yourself, and Proquest even offers like alternative search terms. If you search something like social media, it might say, hey, how about you try searching social networking instead of social media? So that can be a really helpful source. However, Proquest can be overwhelming. So if you are searching and you are not finding what you're looking for, please let me know. And if you have to email me about your Proquest search, let me know the search phrases that you've tried. And don't email me until you've tried at least 5 or 6 different combinations of searches. And, if let's say the word profession wasn't pulling anything up, change it. Find a synonym. Go with job, or go with career, and see how your search results change. Because again, whereas Google might look at the word profession and find an article that says job, career, whatever, Proquest is only going to find articles that have and mimic the exact language that you're searching for. So keep all of that in mind. Again, I'm going to post some links for more information about how to use Proquest. They won't be lectures by me, but they can be helpful sources for you to check out. So hopefully you have found this video helpful regarding Proquest. But again, if you are struggling in any way, please send me an email. Otherwise, happy researching.